Something just happened in Washington that Democrats were never supposed to let happen. A sitting Democratic senator looked straight through the party script, ignored the activist talking points, brushed past the media handlers, and said the one thing that his party has been terrified to say out loud. Terror is evil, period. There are no qualifiers, no footnotes, but on the other hand, none of that. And the moment that John Fetterman said it, you could feel the room change. Democrats didn't argue back. They didn't clap. They didn't pivot. They froze. They were shocked because this wasn't just a statement. This was a break, a clean one. Fetterman didn't just condemn terrorism. He sided with Ted Cruz. Let that sink in, guys. A Democrat agreeing with Ted Cruz on the most radioactive issue in politics right now. Terror, Israel, and moral clarity. That is when the silence turned into panic. Because when a Democrat says what Republicans have been saying for years, when he admits what voters already know, when he calls terror pure evil without apology, the entire narrative collapses. Party loyalty cracks, the Israel rift explodes, and suddenly the question isn't left versus right. It's who's willing to tell the truth and who's been lying by omission. Well, tonight, we're going to be breaking down exactly why this moment shook Democrats to their core, why Fetterman crossed a line that they can't uncross, and why this rare bipartisan flash may signal something far bigger coming next. Stick with me, guys, because this wasn't accidental and this wasn't harmless. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. For those who are subscribed, make sure you're still subscribed. Okay, so this is the moment Democrats didn't plan for and absolutely just could not control. John Fetterman didn't hedge. He didn't soften the language. He didn't hide behind academic jargon or activist-approved phrasing. He looked at the reality in front of him and said one word Democrats have trained themselves to avoid: evil. Not complex, not contextual, not root causes, just evil. And in December 2025, under a Trump presidency where national security language is basically blunt again, that word carries serious weight because ambiguity isn't fashionable anymore. Americans aren't in the mood for linguistic gymnastics. They just want clarity, simple, basic communication. And John Fetterman delivered just that. This is what made his announcement, this moment, dangerous for the party. He didn't say anything voters didn't already believe. What he said, though, was what party leadership refuses to acknowledge: that terrorism doesn't deserve understanding. It deserves condemnation. And the fact that this came from a Democrat shattered the illusion that silence equals moral superiority. This wasn't performative. This was a line in the sand. And once you say it out loud, you can't unsay it. So this didn't happen in a vacuum. The recent terror attack forced the issue back into the open at the worst possible time for Democrats. Global instability is rising. Borders are tightening. The Trump administration is openly naming threats again. And Americans feel the vulnerability. Whether the media wants to admit it or not, that's another story. The attack ripped the mask off the conversation. Suddenly, the usual delay tactics didn't work. There was no time to wait for more information, no space to redirect the conversation toward abstract policy debates. People just wanted one thing answered immediately. Do you condemn this or not? And this is where the fault line cracked. Fetterman, he chose clarity. The party chose caution because condemning terror cleanly risks angering activist blocs that treat moral certainty as aggression. And that calculation, condemn clearly or calculate politically, this is exactly what voters are sick of. This attack didn't just expose a security threat, it exposed a moral one. And Democrats knew it the moment the question started. Watch what happens next, because this is where the story really turns. Democrat leadership didn't rush to rebut Fetterman. They didn't correct him. They didn't even attempt to reframe his words. Instead, they did something far more revealing. They went quiet. That silence wasn't accidental. It was calculation. You could see the hesitation, the delayed responses, the awkward pivots to unrelated talking points. Leaders who usually can't wait to speak suddenly had nothing to say. And the voters noticed this because when the public is outraged, silence isn't neutral. It's a statement. It tells people that condemning terror clearly is no longer a shared value inside the party. And it tells them that fear of backlash matters more than moral clarity. This is the stunned silence that people felt watching it unfold, not because Democrats didn't know what to say, but because they knew exactly what saying it would cost them. And the longer that silence lingered, the longer it became. Now, this silence that we're talking about, this hesitation, this fear of saying the uncomfortable truth, it didn't just exist in politics. It happens in real life too. So grandfather recently shared something that really stuck with me, and he said his Medicare plan didn't cover a bill he assumed that it would. And instead of getting help easily, he had to call his daughter and ask her to step in financially. And he told me, I hated that feeling. I felt embarrassed. This is not about money, folks. This is about about dignity. And that's exactly what chapter protects. They don't just look at what your Medicare plan covers. They look for the gaps that create those humiliating moments before they ever happen. They make sure that you're not blindsided, stressed, or forced to ask for help when you shouldn't have to. Now, most people, they're already dialing the phone number down below there, 909-563-8279, or they're visiting Ask Chapter on the web. There's a link down below. Click that link right now to get clarity. All right, so let's get back to what Democrats didn't want to say out loud. Now, here's where things cross the point of no return. John Fetterman, he didn't just make a statement. He challenged the enforcement mechanism of the Democratic Party itself. I mean, the messaging discipline, the talking points, the unspoken rules about what can and cannot be said. That is why this wasn't received as courage inside the party. It was received as betrayal, because modern party loyalty isn't about shared values anymore. It's about staying inside the approved language lane. Fetterman stepped outside of that, way outside of that. He chose moral clarity over political safety, and the reaction told you everything. Whispers started, distancing statements followed, allies went quiet. That's not accidental. That's pressure. Because here's the irony. The intensity of the backlash proved this point. If condemning terror without qualifiers causes this much internal panic, then something is deeply broken. I mean, this wasn't Fetterman leaving the party. This was the party revealing what it actually protects. This is the moment that sent shockwaves through the entire room. John Fetterman didn't just condemn terror. He agreed with Ted Cruz. And that's where Democrats are visibly recoiled, because Ted Cruz isn't just another Republican. In Democratic politics, Ted Cruz, he's the symbol, the senator that you're never supposed to align with, the name you invoke when you want to signal moral opposition, not agreement with. But John Fetterman didn't flinch. He didn't praise Cruz. He didn't join a coalition. He simply acknowledged reality. On this issue, Cruz was right. And that single admission detonated the narrative that Democrats have relied on for years, that truth is partisan. And so now they're trapped. Attack Cruz and you attack your own senator. Attack Fetterman and you admit the argument stands. That's why this moment mattered. Not because Ted Cruz won, but because the bipartisan firewall cracked. And once voters see agreement across party lines on terror, it becomes impossible to pretend that the issue is ideological instead of moral. That's what terrified them the most. Words matter, especially the words that politicians avoid. Now, for years, terror has been treated like some dangerous term in political politics. Too direct, too final, too judgmental, better to soften it, contextualize it, explain it away. Fetterman refused to do any of those linguistic gymnastics. He called it evil. He called it evil cleanly, unapologetically, without qualifiers. And in doing so, he broke an unspoken rule. Never name the moral line if it risks upsetting the activist base. Because once you call something evil, you can't negotiate with it. You can't excuse it. You can't fold it into a broader grievance narrative. That's why the word caused panic. Not because it was extreme, but because it was final. It forced Democrats to choose between moral clarity and ideological comfort. And the hesitation that followed revealed how far the party has drifted from plain-spoken judgment. Fetterman didn't escalate the language. He simplified it. And that was the real offense. This was where everything collides. The moment terrorism enters the conversation, Israel isn't far behind. And that's where Democrats fracture in real time. Fetterman's position on Israel is not new. But in this moment, it became radioactive. He didn't hedge. He didn't dilute his support. He just simply refused to blur the line between defending civilians and appeasing activists. And that made him a problem, because within the Democratic coalition, Israel has become a third rail. Donors pull one way, activists pull the other way. Party leadership tries to stand perfectly still and hopes the moment passes. Well, Fetterman didn't stand still. By calling terror evil and refusing to separate that clarity from Israel's right to defend itself, he forced Democrats to confront a split that they have been managing quietly for years. The squirming wasn't subtle, it was visible. Now, this wasn't about foreign policy nuance. This was about moral alignment. And once that line is drawn, everyone has to choose where they stand. And so this moment doesn't land the same way that it would have landed 4 years ago, per se. Donald Trump's back in the White House, and national security language has snapped back into focus. You see, terror groups are named plainly. Borders are enforced. Threats are spoken out loud instead of danced around. That's the backdrop that Democrats are operating under. And this is why Fetterman's words hit harder. Because when a Democrat echoes language that the Trump administration has already normalized, it doesn't just challenge party messaging, it validates it. It confirms what millions of voters already believe, that clarity works and ambiguity doesn't. Democrats cannot dismiss this as right-wing framing anymore, especially when one of their own is using it, a fellow Democrat, and they can't pretend voters won't notice the contrast between Trump's blunt posture and their own hesitation. Fetterman didn't mention Trump. He didn't need to. The comparison was automatic, and it was impossible to ignore. Here's the part no one in Washington wants to admit. The most dangerous thing in politics right now isn't extremism, it's agreement. So when John Fetterman and Ted Cruz land on the same moral conclusion about terrorism, this exposes exactly how artificial the partisan divide has become. Because if two senators from opposite ends of the political spectrum can agree on something this basic, then the constant chaos starts to look manufactured. And that terrifies the establishment. Bipartisanship used to be a virtue, but now it's treated like contamination. The moment that unity appears, leadership scrambles to repolarize the issue, to shove everyone back into their lane. Why? Because agreement breaks control. It tells voters that some issues aren't ideological at all, they're moral. And once people realize that, party narratives lose their grip. Fetterman and Cruz, they didn't form an alliance by any means. Fetterman and Cruz formed a mirror, and what it reflected back at Washington wasn't flattering. That's why this moment was treated as a threat and not a breakthrough. Now, here's the truth that Democrats are quietly confronting. Fetterman didn't persuade voters, he echoed them. Most Americans, they already believe terror is evil, right? I mean, they already believe moral clarity shouldn't be controversial. They already feel exhausted by the constant need to qualify obvious truths. This is why this moment went viral. Not because it was shocking, but because it was familiar. People watched Fetterman and they thought to themselves, well, finally somebody said it without apologizing. Finally, someone stopped talking like a press release and started talking like a human being. The shock wasn't in the message. It was in who delivered it. And that's the part that the party leadership underestimated. When voters see their own thoughts spoken out loud by someone inside the system, this just confirms a suspicion that they've already had for years. The disconnect isn't accidental. Fetterman didn't change the conversation. He just revealed how long it's been suppressed. So what John Fetterman did wasn't just a statement. It was a warning shot. Because if Democrats keep dodging clear condemnation of terror, keep blurring moral lines to avoid activist backlash, and keep distancing themselves from Israel while Trump controls the national security narrative, the consequences won't be theoretical. They'll be electoral. Trust erodes first, then credibility, then voters just stop listening altogether. You can't lead on safety while sounding unsure about threats. You can't ask for moral authority while refusing to use moral language. Fetterman's moment exposed a fork in the road. One path leads back to clarity, saying what's true even when it angers parts of the coalition. But the other leads deeper into hesitation, where silences become the policy and fear drives the decisions. And here's a reality Democrats don't want to face. Trump didn't create this contrast. He benefits from it. Now, if Democrats don't correct course, they won't just lose arguments, they'll lose relevance. So here's a question that really lingers after the silence fades. If one Democrat can say this much and cause this much panic, then what does it say about everyone else? Like, what does it say about a party where calling terror evil is considered risky, where agreeing with the wrong senator is treated like treason, where moral clarity is filtered through political cost-benefit analysis? John Fetterman didn't claim to be a leader of a movement. He didn't ask anybody to follow him. He just simply spoke plainly. And that was enough to shake the room. Because when someone inside the system finally says what Americans have been thinking all along, it forces a reckoning, not between left and right, but between truth and convenience. The question now isn't whether Fetterman crossed the line. It's whether anyone else still has the courage to cross it too. That's the moment that we're living in right now. And everyone watching the show right now already knows that. This is why this moment matters more than a headline. It wasn't a gaffe, it wasn't a slip, and it wasn't accidental. John Fetterman said what he said because the pressure finally outweighed the fear. And the reaction, the silence, the distancing, the discomfort, this told you everything that you needed to know about where the fault lines really are. This wasn't about Ted Cruz. It wasn't about Israel alone. This wasn't even about party loyalty. This was about whether anyone inside the system is still willing to say the obvious when it is no longer safe to do so. Now, you don't have to agree with Fetterman on everything to realize what just happened. A door cracked open. And once voters see that, they start asking harder questions. Who speaks plainly? Who hides behind language? And who actually represents reality? That's the tension that Democrats are sitting with right now, and it's not going away. Now, if this conversation made you a little bit uncomfortable, good. That means it landed where it's supposed to. Like this video, definitely subscribe if you want more unfiltered breakdowns like this one, and I'll see you next time.